Former Rushcliffe MP Ken Clarke has been pretty high profile this week again. He's been giving evidence to the infected blood inquiry. It started on Tuesday and it's continued since then. Around 3,000 people died, of course, after being given blood products that contained HIV or hepatitis C or both in the 1970s and 80s. But as late as November 1983, the government was still saying that it was not conclusively proven that HIV could be transmitted through blood products. Well, today was the last of the 3 days of evidence focusing on Lord Clarke's time as Health Minister in the early days of all of this. On Tuesday's show, you heard from Suresh Vaghela, who is a severe haemophiliac and was infected with hepatitis C and HIV, and has been campaigning since he became aware of these contamination issues. He was talking about when he first realised that there was some kind of issue.
It was when it was early part of my university days when I got a phone call from the hospital to say that we did a blood test which I wasn't aware of, and they said that we found some anomalies, and before you know it, they said, just get your papers in order, and you've only got a few months to live, and that was in 1983-84. Being a haemophiliac, I mean, you have one blood family, and then you've got the one family, which is the hospital, and you rely on their advice and the guidance. And won't be told to know that the treatment that you'd been given was below par, was a difficult pill to just sort of swallow.
Well, Suresh went on to explain how it dawned on him and others affected that something wasn't right.
I just thought, as anything, it's just bad luck, and these things happen to people. But as time went on, and we started sort of talking to other haemophiliacs, that's when we realised that the events that unfolded were all they could be managed better, and we could have reduced the amount of suffering. But it's up to the government to take the right steps, and unfortunately, those reins weren't pulled in when they should have been.
So what did he make then of Lord Clarke's evidence on that first day when he was on the show? He was frustrated, basically. He talked about what he wanted out of the inquiry.
All we want the government to say was that we tried our best. I mean, these were the options that were available, but it just seems to be that any kind of question is difficult to answer. And for the haemophiliacs and the affected, the families, I mean, they just want a simple answer to say that things didn't go according to plan, and we could have done better. But there's nothing of that sort coming forward.
Well, Des Collins is a solicitor representing some of the victims. He's obviously been following the evidence very closely over the last few days. Hello, Des.
Hello.
So are you happier with any of the answers that have occurred since Tuesday?
Well, the short answer to that is no. I don't think we are happy with any of the answers which we've been given, and I don't think any of the victims are similarly happy with any of the answers that they've been given. Before this 3 days of hearing commenced, we had a lot of paperwork before us. We had examined that paperwork consisting of minutes of meetings, notes, memos, etc. And we wanted to get behind that material. We wanted to see why certain memos were written at certain times to certain people. And we had hoped that Lord Clarke would provide that background information, putting us in a much better position to analyse where we are at the moment and move forward. But we're not. No. Lord Clarke was very often unwilling to elaborate to any reasonable degree on what he'd said before, or whatever paperwork was in existence, and at certain points in his evidence he'd simply say, well, I don't remember, I don't know. So not necessarily a helpful process insofar as the victims are concerned.
But he was adamant he'd done nothing wrong, wasn't he? I mean, if you've done nothing wrong, you're not going to cough up to something you haven't done.
Over and above that, on a higher level, yes, he was quite adamant that he had done nothing wrong, and not only that he had done nothing wrong, because we've got to remember, for most of this period, he was at the top of the pile in the Department of Health. Not only that he had done nothing wrong, but he was quite satisfied that junior ministers had not done anything wrong, and similarly, civil servants had not done anything wrong. So. As I say, when he couldn't remember, he'd say he couldn't remember, but then I have to say that the view that my clients have taken away after the last 3 days is that if he couldn't remember, he wouldn't say anything, and when it was convenient for him to say something, he could remember at that point. So the word selectivity came up in post-hearing discussions with the victims, and I can see why.
Do you think you'll ever get, the answers that you want through this process? Which doesn't just involve Lord Clarke, does it? This is an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing process. The inquiry took the best part of 40 years to set up. It's now been going for 2 or 3 years. The short answer to your question, yes, I do believe that the victims will find the answers to which they're entitled. They haven't got them yet, but they will. They're a very tenacious lot, these guys. They fought this for over 40 years. They will continue to fight. And we're back in with the inquiry after the summer break in September. And when I think one of the next main witnesses to be called will be Norman Fowler. But very often, once you've heard the witness give evidence, you can go back to your desk, you can look at the evidence, you can look at what's the transcript and find that perhaps more has come out than you imagined had done when you were sitting listening to it. So no, we're still quite happy. We will get to the bottom of this, taking a long time.
Des, thank you. Des Collins, a solicitor representing some of the victims in the contaminated blood scandal. It's 18 minutes past 5.